So, how's my audio, Vito? I guess we're listening to the same thing over and over again. Is my mic okay, or is it pretty trash? Use a little volume. Okay, it's not. I just turned it up, but the music isn't going to be as loud whenever I'm doing what I'm doing. But I'm more concerned with the quality. There we go. I turned that down a bit. Are there filters on the whole thing? Okay, I think I'm ready. Hi everybody, what is up? Welcome to the stream. My name is Alckemy. It's been a while since I've done a music stream, but it's because I've been doing things. Didn't seem bad as far as I could tell. Okay, well if the hissing in the background gets too out of control, let me know, because I'm using a condenser mic today. Hi Fritz, what's going on? Let me see here. Hi everybody, welcome. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Bitwig's operators, and I think that one of the cool things about it is, well, it's really fun. The problem with it is that it kind of voids any reason to come out with a MIDI pack or to come out with something in general, and I'm going to show you why. And this is exactly why I will not release MIDI packs, even if it's for drums or whatever. But at the same time, kind of going through some of this stuff that I want to share with you is going to set anybody that has Bitwig, if you don't know already, into a super creative like MIDI thing that will give you pretty much infinite inspiration as long as you put the initial time into it. And yeah, like it's really easy to get set up and going. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build a drum rack, and I guess today isn't going to be like the longest stream ever. It's going to be more so kind of like an academic thing, but that's, you know, for people that want to learn in the first place. But let's go ahead and pull up a drum rack, and then I'm going to find some sounds or whatever that don't necessarily have to be all that crazy, but we'll find some kind of easygoing kick. Actually, that one's pretty nice. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pitch this one up just a bit as well, maybe by like 2 semitones. Cool. And then I'm going to turn this up a little bit as well. Let's see here. Okay. And then we want some kind of snare, but I don't really want like a heavy one. I want one that's more like techie. That one's okay. Okay, that will kind of do. I think maybe if we pitch that up by a few semitones, then that'll be good. Maybe not. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now from this point, we just want some percussion. How are you guys? Welcome. Hey, Evan, how's it going? Not gonna lie, some polyrhythm MIDI would be hot as fuck. Hey man, the sound is great. Thanks, Johan. Appreciate it. Welcome. Yeah, welcome everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If it's kind of quiet, then you might have to turn it up a little bit, but that's just because the mixing is pretty, how do you say? The mixing is pretty good. I just don't want to, there's not really a way on OBS to turn everything up at once. How rad would it be if Bitwig added an operator for swing values that could be modulated? I think you can. Well, maybe not. I'm trying to think about that. I think that if there were an operator module in general, That would be awesome. And the reason, like, I'm going to talk about that here in a bit, um, but as far as like what's happening, I think that we are off to a great starting point. And initially, from this point, I'm just going to throw some stuff in here. Except these are all the same. Okay, maybe let's look at like some Foley instead. No, I just want Foley hits. Okay, I like that one. It's kind of dry. That one's kind of wet. And we're going to pitch all of these up. Just because I want them to be more techy. That one's kind of cool. And I think that I actually like that snare better. And then maybe let's like 2 more. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so let's go through all of these now, and we're going to pitch these up, and the reason why is because I want these to be shorter. That's fine. I don't know how that's going to pan out later, but... And then let's go ahead and change the speed. Same thing with this. We want this to be faster. That's fine. This one, pitch it up. Pew pew. Same thing. That's maybe not. And really what I'm trying to do is just create techie sounds that are kind of short in nature. So that way whenever we do this stuff, yeah, okay, that sounds much better to me. Now that we have something like this, we've got a full kit, and we can really just kind of Picardy third toms. We can kind of just throw stuff together, and this is going to kind of be where the magic happens. And this initially is where it's going to take the most work. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a 2 to 4 bar loop. And really what comes into this idea is just creating a versatile operator heavy MIDI clip. And then once we get into that, I'll show you guys a quick trip that we can get into that will allow us to have a bunch of variations. So the first thing that we want to do is let's go ahead and pick a tempo. I'm going to pick just a regular like IDM tempo, which is like 110. So if you listen to this, it kind of has like that you know, something like that. And that's kind of, I guess 110 is a good both glitch hop and kind of like IDM type thing that I think would sound good. So the first thing that you want to do is kind of just put together a simple kind of like beat. So we can kind of just start from here, and we probably want to do something like that. Boom, boom, da, boom, da, boom. And then have some fill stuff right here. And then we'll probably end up changing that snare, but it really doesn't matter. This is really just a placeholder for MIDI because that's really what's important with this. So now at this point that we have this kind of, I guess, beat together, we can kind of start just placing little things in here. Kind of like this, and we kind of started with the basis of having a kick and snare, and now we can kind of just have some fun by kind of filling these things in this way. So now that we have something like that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on this one, and then I'll duplicate this and then change it again, so that way we end up with a 4-bar loop. Like apparently you can just pick a thing and do it all over and make it yours, eptic in triplets or modus with Picardy thirds. What's cool yet weird is I can fucks with like that. Probably this, to be honest. I mean, you can set things into a triplet grid and switch in between something like that. That goes all the way to septuplets. And I think this breaks down all the way into 165,536th of a beat. I didn't even know that. We'll probably just stick with something pretty simple right now with maybe 1/16, but you can get like super hyper intricate with that. And then what you can do, like let's say you wanted to turn like some of those things into triplets with like insane polyrhythm, is you can just highlight a single section like this and then go to quantize and set your swing, set your shuffle, set your humanize, and all that stuff into something kind of like that. So, having that, this just pushed that into the triplet aspect. But for me, I think that I'm just going to keep things on grid for now, just because, well, it's going to be, I want people to be able to follow this and have it be relatively easy to set up, right? So I'm not going to make it too complicated. But with this, now that we have something like that, I'm going to kind of just let this loop for a bit and kind of mess around with some of the sounds that we chose. And again, it doesn't really matter because it's more so for the sake of MIDI, but in that sense, I do kind of want to have something that is a little bit more usable for me personally. Okay, that actually works. So now that we have something like that, what I'll do as well is pick some of these and okay, so something like this, maybe I'll throw a disperser on it and just kind of make it wonky. And the cool thing about this is like, once you have something kind of like this, you can really go like as far into it or like not touch it as you want. But for me, I like having a little bit of variation on some of this stuff just to make it fun. So I'm going to add a chorus onto this and then probably make this in mono. Let's see what happens when we do something like this. Okay, that way. There we go. You can kind of hear that that has a little bit of flanging on it now. And then okay, I kind of like that too, so I'm going to go ahead and throw an LFO on that. And I usually don't really work in MIDI, to be honest. But at the same time, whenever you do, like it does have advantages, especially if you're trying to do something interesting. So like an operator would be great right here if I wanted to mess with the pitch of something like that. So that way whenever this moves, it's going to have a little bit more dynamics to it. And then I think maybe I'll also add some kind of ping pong delay that will kind of come on and off at times. So I like the kilohertz one. And then we'll just set that there. And then I'm going to add another modulator here to kind of control that just a bit. So we'll go LFO classic. And then we're going to set this one to a square, make that go like every 2 bars, and then just turn the mix on by like that much. And so now, like, again, it's just adding a little bit of variety to this. So once you have something like this, what's wrong with Complextro? Okay, so now that we have something like this, what we're going to do is come into this, and I wish that I could make this bigger, but unfortunately it doesn't do that. So I guess we'll kind of just line it up. Actually, what I can do is I can zoom into here, kind of like this. Hopefully the screen will do what I want it to. I think, yeah, it does. Okay, I just had to double check. And we're going to kind of come into here. Actually, no, I need the whole screen, real estate, sorry. We're just going to start messing with some of this stuff. So I think for this, what we'll do is grab our operator right here, and we're going to turn the chance on by turning the chaos up. And the reason why I like doing this is because it doesn't set it at a specific value. So we can change the mean to be at like maybe 54 or something percent and then make it have some chaos. But now that means that whenever this loops, it's going to be playing, it's going to have a chance to not play at all. So with that, we can kind of come into here and just start kind of going ham with some of this stuff and having fun. So the kick on the 1 might even, actually, yeah, we can actually really just randomize all this stuff for 1. And it doesn't really matter. I think maybe we might also want to do that. As long as there's maybe like 1 or 2 hits on the groove here that has some kind of establishment. And even with this right here, something that I might want to do is go never on first. Or wait, always on first. Because that way it's going to establish the rhythm, and then when it repeats, that means that the chants will be activated, and so that means that we can kind of use that to diversify and to add a lot of chants into the melodic rhythms that we're adding. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this 2-bar loop once, and then I'm going to duplicate it and then mess around with it some more and then change it into a 4-bar loop. But that's pretty much what this process is. And you don't have to only do randomization, right? You can also do stuff kind of like creating, exponential rhythms in that sense. Although I kind of don't really want to create clicks or anything, so that might be something to kind of give that chance on. And then we'll talk about these as well. I forget, I think it's called recurrence. Yeah, which I actually didn't think that I would use a lot, but I actually do because it creates a lot of really cool stuff. So let's go ahead and kind of just mess with some of these things and start kind of pulling this into something along that nature. So one thing that we can also do is it might be kind of cool to add something like this, maybe like 16ths, and then push it over to the side. And then with this one specifically, we'll add in the fill. So if there's something empty here, then this will kind of fill that. And then from there, we'll kind of also go ahead and start creating some other stuff, like maybe right here, undo. We want like a short chance, kind of like this. Thanks for confirming comp, Lextro. Terrible. And we can also move that over to the side as well. Okay, what's going on here? Snap to grid is on. It's fine. And we definitely need the adaptive grid. Thanks. That would help a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we'll duplicate that, and then give this one chance. I like 11% chance. Okay, so now that we have something kind of like that, we can also do another exponential rhythm right here and kind of move this over, and then we can go to fill off. And so now between all of this stuff, we can kind of highlight some of these and maybe not necessarily do them all, but like maybe this one and this one, we can set the recurrence to be like every 4th time the first time it's going to be on, the second time it's going to be off, the first time or the third time it's going to be on, the second time it's going to be off. And then with that, we can kind of just create, some other multiple things along with that to create some interesting movement. And this just really adds like another layer of chance and another layer of diversity into being able to create the most randomization possible. And that's why I think that this is really cool. So now that we've kind of gotten a few more, I think that I want to do maybe just a couple more things, like this one. I'm going to have this recurrence on and have that cycle with a 50% chance, and then I'm going to have that kind of drill in that way. And then I'll just set a easy randomization on this. So now whenever this plays over and over and over and over again, it's going to have a lot of... I've been learning Blender 14 hours constantly today, just saying. Oh, well, that's cool. This is Bitwig, though. Okay, and we're going to turn the fill on that one. So now that we have something like that, I'm going to go ahead and just make these drums a little bit beefier just because, well, that's what we do here. And it's not going to be anything too crazy, but I think that I'm just going to do some light stuff, maybe just a little bit of saturation, some transient shaping to kind of keep these nice and tight. And then I'm going to do some light glue compression on these as well. Again, I'm not like doing what I normally do with this because with this kind of music you don't really need to like make your drums super loud in the way that you normally would. I'm actually Alex myself, Alex, but this will give it a little bit of crunch now. So now that we have something like that, we can duplicate this, and now what I'm going to do is just be lazy and highlight some of these things and redistribute the chaos aspect of this to something like that. Then I'll highlight these and do the same thing. So I'll turn the mean down and kind of turn the chaos up in that way into something like that. There we go, with a different kind of distribution. So now all of these are going to be a lot different, and then I'll move this one here and set that one to 8. And this will kind of give us, I'll also add in, actually, we'll put the 1 on there. And then we'll give this one chance. Cool. So now that we've got all this stuff in play, we can add all of this together and make it a single clip. And there's one big trick with this that makes this work. And unfortunately, you can't do it on the timeline, but what you can do is do it within the slice view or the clip launcher view. And so what you have to do is drag this over into here, and then you're going to right click and go to expand. And this is where the magic happens. You can preserve the chance and preserve the spread and change this into however many different bars you want, and then what this is going to do is print the MIDI. So now, whenever you double click on this, everything that we placed into this is printed out. So now we pretty much just made a 16-bar variation of this, and it's going to play the same every time now. I think, I'm not sure if preserve chance or preserve that is supposed to be on or off, but working with that, we can pretty much have And so now that we have something like that, we can kind of go through some of this stuff and start readjusting the other aspects to this. So hold on one second. Shout out to Glorplunk, making cool stuff. Okay, so I don't really like that one, so we can switch that one over. That one's kind of cool, but kind of weird too. Doop, doop, doop. That's better. That one's cool. But you can see here that we've pretty much just made 16 different bars of this kind of thing. And now that we have this, we can pretty much just use this source file and save that to our library. So save clip launcher to library, and we can call this MIDI Maker 3. And then when we have clips like this, we can go to my library. Oh, wait. I want to find clips. IDM Maker, and pull something else like this up. Say something like this. And do the exact same thing. So we can right click, go expand, preserve chance. We can turn this one off this time and see what that does. But now we've pretty much got the same thing over this way with 16 bars, and you can see here that they're all different. So I'm going to kind of zoom in on this and grab this. Command E. Oh, wait. That's way too much work. Slice and place. We're going to do bars. Okay. And so every 2 bars, we can kind of just drag this below. That would be cool if you can actually set different bars on this. But as you can see here, this one has little 3s, this one has 2, this one's got this little thing. But all of these are different. They're all randomized in that way. And so whenever you start working with something like this, you pretty much have infinite variations and infinite loop possibilities for your MIDI. And that pretty much just breaks, well, at least with this kind of music, right? Because you could easily take something like this with just this repeating part, and then pull this out, not the whole thing, sorry, and pull and replace this, or do this like every 4 bars, and be like, okay, well, I don't like that one, so let's try this one. So you can have this call and response that you're making with this, and essentially like this creates infinite amount of MIDI. And this is why I will not do MIDI packs. This is why I think that it's kind of ridiculous, especially with how easy this is to set up. Now, we were talking about with Lex and stuff, or somebody was asking about the idea about creating swing, but the same thing can still apply. Like you can still highlight all of these and right click to quantize. Or whenever you're making this, like you can offset them just a little bit in order to kind of set that up. But with that being said, like you can still shuffle and humanize everything in such a way that will start to create, you know, more swung beats, or you can start to do that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about this is that once you have some stuff that you like, you can immediately start sequencing some kind of drum thing. So let's just say that, like I said before, we're going to replace every other one, right? So then we'll duplicate these 2, and then we'll use this one instead, and then we'll duplicate these 2, and then use this one instead. And now that you have something like this, right, I'm going to go ahead and delete these other ones since we're pretty much using the same thing now. The first part is always going to be the same, and the second bar is always going to have variation into it. So and then once you have something like that, you can take it a step further by, I'm going to duplicate this, but you go duplicate, and then you go bounce in place. And now that you have something like this, you let the first one go, and then you just really start having fun by breaking this stuff and having a good time, kind of like so. So you can reverse this, kind of like so. Grab this, go pitch plus 12. You can grab this whole entire section like that and divide this sound into 4s, and then suddenly you're starting to work with this, like both combining MIDI and audio, and instead of the last thing that we got, which I don't even remember, you've got something kind of like this. and then maybe you want to take that a step further by pulling this over in this way and then kind of dragging that out. And maybe instead of this as well, you want to reverse that, so that way there's something there. You'll have a different hit, kind of like that, over this way. And then you'll pick up the pieces on the next one and add in a kick right there on the 3. So now suddenly we've got something like this. And then I guess we would probably need 2 more, so we can kind of pull that over and then we can bounce those and kind of have another like little drill thing or whatever kind of go right there. 3, 4, and this thing is kind of off in a weird place, but that's totally fine. Maybe what we want to do is reverse that and then kind of pick up the pieces at this particular section. Go tiku tiku. And then maybe right here we want to duplicate this and have something here, but instead we can kind of fish for a different sample, kind of like that, and go like this and find something else that can replace, oh shit, find something else that can replace it. Okay, that works. And then we can also kind of pitch things around in such a way and have fun. And then we can also like change the formants as well, which I almost never even mess with. But if you kind of go and do something like this, and maybe in certain sections you hit the 3 and you hold Option, well, now you can start to fuck with things kind of in this manner. And this automatically just gives you a ton of variation in which to work with, and it's based off of transients and stuff, or at least beat divisions. And that's kind of why I try to stick with doing this stuff in the first place, because at least for now as a teaching matter, because everything is evenly divided, and it makes the automation, it makes stuff like this, or even with pitching and stuff, right, like a lot easier to do. So even if I wanted to do like some interesting kind of step thing or whatever, kind of like this, then I can kind of slowly make that descend kind of like that and have some kind of interesting thing where maybe it goes downward, and then it will kind of go upward or something, and this way. And so now, like, suddenly you just, oh man, the stuff that you can do within this is just pretty incredible. And now it's not like perfect by any means, and it doesn't have the end all be all, but the reason why I enjoy it is because it's really just fun to break sounds in this way. And then, like, let's say, like, okay, you've already got your 8-bar loop or whatever. Well, that's when you start getting into the other stuff. That's where you start getting into making, more basic things. So, like, maybe we can find, like, a top loop or something, right? Okay, that sounds pretty nice. So we'll just kind of drag that in and see what that does. Okay, so obviously that's a little bit off, so we'll just kind of line that up and see what that does. Okay, that's whatever that's supposed to be is not, so all we have to do is create a fade right here, and then we can kind of just duplicate that along the way. No big deal. And then find maybe a different top line. Okay, let's try shuffle. Okay, so something kind of like that, and then we can kind of bridge that out, maybe solo that. And then set this to slice mode. And then we can kind of pretty much go through the same like process of doing that in that way. But if you kind of listen to this now, then we're going to have a much more dynamic beat. And then from that point, like, as far as making a tune goes, like, let's say you're going to do like IDM or something, like, all you have to really even consider getting into is, you know, just add some kind of interesting chord. I just made a recent, no, not phase 4, phase plant. Phase 4. What else do we use? That's the only thing that I ever use anymore, is this bad guy. So, let's see. What was that last thing that I made? Pad. Ambient Doom pad. Bramble Scramble pad. I don't know. Doesn't need to be anything intricate, but we can just kind of create like a nice easy chord over this. And we can also get rid of the clip launcher. And let's say we wanted this to be in like E minor. Okay, I don't want that, but we can go maybe something kind of like that and start with octaves. And then we can do something kind of bring that over. And then we're just going to make this really cheesy. So let's see what that turns out to be. Maybe just try octaves or something. And then maybe this one. I'm not the best at making chords, so forgive me. It's not bad. Then we can kind of have something over here as well. Yeah, something like that could work. So, I mean, even if you wanted to keep that like as a sustained thing or whatever, and like we're not talking about mixing or whatever, but at the same time, having this available to you in that way makes things a lot easier in order to just kind of get your song going, right? Because this is kind of putting together an 8-bar loop. So. It's not supposed to be that one, whatever. We'll go ahead and fix that one, whatever that one was supposed to be. works. It doesn't, again, I'm not really being too picky with this in particular, but it's kind of just a matter of figuring out what works and how to get something up like this pretty easily, right? So now that we have something else like that, we can start to pull up different paths and stuff, or something that has like a little bit more interest in it, in order to find other motions and other movements as well. So I'm trying to think about what did anybody watch that most recent video that I posted? Oh, Pretty. Yeah, it was like Pretty Bells or something. Yeah, okay. I really enjoyed this one. This is a really cool patch that that I just did a tutorial on, but having something kind of like this now might allow us to create a little bit more interest in making something with the whole IDM culture type thing, right? So so I don't have my I don't have my hard drive hooked up. Hey, out, go. You're not allowed in here. Go. All right, so I don't have my hard drive hooked up, but at the same time, we can still kind of get some other ideas about how to keep going within the tune. So making something with that, you can, I guess, just pull up anything. We need something kind of like this. And I would say, yeah, something kind of like that, or most likely like an arpeggiator or something would sound pretty nice. Is my thing frozen? Oh no, it's not frozen. Okay, I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, now that we have something like that, so I hear something that might be kind of nice where it's kind of playing at an octave, so something kind of like this where you go and then what we can also do here is go into the clip because that would be easier. Highlight this and right click. Oh wait, just hit R and then reverse that. So now this will be a little bit different. And then we can grab these C ones over here like that and highlight, reverse, and reverse. Cool. So now we've got a little bit of interpretation over this and a little bit of elaboration, and that allows us to have, like, well, quite a bit with not that many tracks. We've got a bass, we've got drums, we've got percussion, we've got always glad to discover a fellow bitworker. Hi, I've been around for a while. Welcome to the stream. And then maybe with this one, we kind of want to kind of let that come down a little bit. So what we can do from here is duplicate this, and we can bounce all of this stuff to audio. This stuff as well. And you want to make sure that you highlight everything when you bounce this, because otherwise it's not going to get the reverb tails, and that's kind of what we want. But from this piece over here, now all we have to do is duplicate and variate, so we can start working on this section in particular. But we've got printed audio. So now we can kind of start doing things like this. And having some fun, I guess, where we kind of just let that elaborate. And then instead of having, you know, everything be sustained, we can actually start to create spaces within this and start doing little things and creating call and responses to these. So wait, undo. And move this over. So now we can have something there. And let me listen to this one. Kind of move that over to maybe to like right there, and then cut that. And then maybe raise that an octave. So now and then we can start getting creative with some of this stuff by creating syncopation and all that too, kind of like so. And then maybe, you know, you can have kind of something like that, and then you can really just start breaking some of this stuff as well, and not having beats on every single thing, because sometimes that can kind of take away from some of the unpredictability with creating syncopation. If you've got something that's going on like at all times of the beat breakdown, then sometimes it loses its value. So, but now we're pretty much just getting into having fun and like not being afraid to break some of the sound, right? Because within this you can kind of just start doing things of that nature. And again, if you ever need to go back, or let's say like this isn't working out, well, you've got this. And even if you need to go back to the drum machine, if we hit, and this is why hybrid clips are so amazing, we've still got our original sound source right here, right? So within that, we're starting to create an idea, and then we're taking that same idea and then we're breaking that idea down, because essentially we're pretty much just using stems in that sense. And then even what you can even think about doing is like, oh, it's got to be tighter than that, so like here. kind of create that, and then maybe come on over here and create like a different shape or something. So maybe something like this, and hit R again, so that way. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's kind of nice. And I'm not really worried about like the baseline or whatever, because the thing is that it's already quantized, so all you have to do is kind of just cut in between the bars, if that makes sense, and it will always work because it's still following along the same thing. So if you've got this, as long as you don't cut here, and you don't cut here, and you don't cut here, then it doesn't really matter, because it's always going to catch up, or it's always going to reset to the same kind of like baseline that you're trying to create. So it's a really easy shortcut in order to kind of make interesting things. With this in particular, it's just a respace, so really the only thing that you have to think about is rhythm, because there's no like layers of phrasing, right? There's not any neurobase within this. There's not any kind of crazy like different things of that nature, which if you do create space in that sense, then you can fill those with neurobase fills or whatever. But for this in particular, you don't really have to do that. It's already kind of done for you. And then maybe even for something like that as well, you might want to do like another double kick or something. Hello? Maybe. Bruh. Help. Okay. And then you can also even mess around with like playing with like different pitches and stuff of this bass too, right? Like it doesn't have to be, it's IDM, do whatever the fuck you want. That's why it's so fun. So even for this, you know, you can kind of like start to build something where you go like, no, original, higher, 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 something kind of like, okay, that's kind of cheesy. It didn't really work, but maybe we can try something. And for this, we kind of might want to try to find where we want this to be. Unfortunately, I can't see the values, so maybe by doing something like this, that would help. I was like, what? So we can go to 3. This one can go to 7. And then this one can go an octave. And then maybe this sucks, right? So there's still more things that you can do with it. Okay, maybe not, so. And then maybe in order to make everything match, to kind of like play along with the same lines, you can think about using like an SP404 sampler and like do it to the whole thing. So you kind of take all of these elements and pitch that up as a quick moment or a quick fill, right? And start to and then right there seems like a good place to kind of have like a stop. So and then maybe instead we kind of just want like a snare or something. Something like that. And then maybe let the rest play out. So it's not bad. So obviously I think that it needs a lot of work in that nature, but at the same time you can kind of see where things are going in order to kind of get a tune like this started. And I had no idea what I was going to be writing today, other than the fact of like taking this stuff with operators and, you know, making the most out of it. But as far as like when it comes down to having a ton of drum variation and a ton of shit, man, like you can do this with both drums, you can do this with MIDI. If you've got a chord progression or you've got an arpeggiator or something and you want to create some kind of variation of that, like the sky's the limit. And it really caters, like Bitwig caters to this kind of music. Really caters to this kind of music. I'm going to go ahead and I'll save this and just call this an example. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this project file up on Patreon. Not Patreon, sorry. For all of the high tier YouTube members, because I need to put something up for them anyways. So we'll call this Art of Operators. And we'll save that. I need to go to File, Collect, and Save. Maybe, if this works. Okay. I couldn't click, but that worked. And then here's kind of like a more deep example about what it was that I was doing with all this stuff. So I wrote this tune when I got my second shot of COVID, and it I started feeling like crap. So, but kind of like this narrates some of the actions and things that I was doing during that time when I was like feeling really dizzy and I had these like crazy swelling headaches and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's not finished by any means. It's still kind of just a basic skeleton, but it's a really easy way that you can kind of see how this stuff starts to come together. And really with this, it was the same idea about taking that same idea of operators and then going to expand, and then instead of doing a bunch of different stuff, I kind of just was really lazy and laid the drums out in this way. And every other bar, there's different variations and stuff in order to kind of give that, as many different types of stuff that you can make. And your drums have this sense of familiarity, but they have just enough randomization to where they don't sound like they're too samey, if that makes sense. And every time you would go back and listen to this, ideally, at least for me, especially if you're listening to all the different nuance and stuff, you can go back and like see how every pattern is just a little bit different, or it's just a little bit different, just a little bit different. So yeah, man, I think that the operators used to this degree, and I've only used a handful of sounds, right? So imagine if you've got like a full suite of these things. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sounds in this. So imagine if you've got, like a whole entire filled up drum rack in order to create all different kinds of variation, and then you went in through the time and started making those individual changes throughout the little operators and stuff that you have. So high-pitched bit crush sine plucks with reverb for big ambience. Hi, Matt. Also, what? Huh? Are you talking about that? Are you talking about the sound that I'm using in here? It's a very undescriptive question. No. What? While I'm waiting for you to answer that, I'm going to finish up kind of talking about what I was talking about here. So within all that, though, it allows you to kind of have a lot of variation. And then you start thinking about what you can do with MIDI, or sorry, with melodies or with chords or with things like that, right? So like if you have like a really dry chord and you kind of do some of these randomization patterns and stuff to that, like there's a ton of expression that you can end up getting. I hope that in the future the operators are expanded on even more, both with like pitch or like MPE stuff, like that would be nuts, or the operator could become a a modulator on its own. Because if you can do that, then you can start adding different effects to the modulation source, and then you have this like interesting bank or something over to the side. What about Simplex with bit crush and reverb for the background to make contrast with the beat? Oh, you're asking about stuff to add to the beat? No, I'm not really working, like, I already kind of have an idea about what I want to do with this in particular. But I was, the reason why I asked that was because this sound in particular actually already has that. Um, if you look right here, this is pretty much, it's triangle waves, but you're band passing it. But when the distortion is added, wait, yeah, here you go. Here are your sine waves, and then there's distortion that's added along with some other stuff that kind of helps create that sound. So if you take a listen to this, then it sounds really soft, but then at times when it comes in, it adds the bit crushing to it. Or not, or sorry, it's not bit crushing, but it is distortion. And you can kind of hear that in the background with the boom, 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 boom. But yeah, I try to do that all within a single patch as opposed to, having multiple things. But with this in particular, I was actually thinking about more natural sounds like cello and granular instruments. So taking, maybe a piece of some kind of horn or something and adding just more subtle swells and ambiances in that way. So yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the art of operators. Does anybody have any questions on anything? It's really fun to do, and I hope that more people that have Bitwig kind of give that a chance. Even if it's, not for making this kind of music or anything in particular, you can just use it for percussive lines. You can use it for just about anything that you want to put just a little bit of time into. And then that expand feature is almost like, it's a killer feature. It's so easy to create, tons and tons of variation off of that. But that's why I won't do a MIDI pack, at least for drums, because people have asked me about that, and I'm like, it's too easy. It's too easy. There's no way that I could consciously sell somebody something that is just it depends. It depends, Evan. I think I can pull something up for you to kind of show you some things that I've done, assuming that, do I have Stalking Ghosts on here? No, I don't. Okay, give me just 1 second and I'll pull this up. Well, that sounds beautiful and vibey enough, so maybe better not add more. If you have the patience, then I have a tutorial on that I put up just a few days ago, except it's narrated by Daniel, by UK Daniel, MLG. And the reason why was because I didn't have a good mic to record, so I just thought I'd do something cheeky and add that. MIDI packs? What about MIDI packs, Wiggles? Yeah, some people, I guess if that's what you're asking, some people had asked me to do MIDI packs, and I'm not going to do it, just because I'm like, it's so easy to make your own. With MIDI 2.0 coming out, I think that there's some cool stuff that's kind of happening, but until that becomes a thing, I don't really feel like MIDI is expressive enough in order to create, a compelling. Dude, what is going on here? Come on. MIDI pack in general. Hold on 1 second. I have so many unfinished projects. Here we go. What Sennheiser models do you use? I'm using HD 600s. I prefer not to use headphones if possible. I am right next to my monitors, but my all of my recording equipment is pretty much packed away because I'm going to Canada on Tuesday. And I can't be bothered to... Bro, what the fuck? Pull up. Help! Oh my gosh. Jesus Christ. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I have a cello in this. It's somewhere. No. It might be on a different tune. That's okay. So typically what I do, actually let me just do this because this is going to be more useful to you anyways. What I would particularly do with a cello, I might have to rescan this because I moved everything over to the hard drive. Stradivari cello is I actually use multipass. Yeah, I gotta reset this where it's supposed to be. Fuck. Sorry for the inconvenience. Files. Wait, here. Settings. Search thing. Where's my file at? No. How do I pull this up? Do I have preferences on this? There it is. Okay, plugins, locations, user library, add. Hello? What the fuck is up with Bitwig? Bitwig is being super cantankerous right now. No, don't save. Jesus. Okay, let's try that one more time. Sweet, using the HD 660S and Bitwig 4. Appreciate you going the extra mile to answer my question thoroughly. Well, it's something that's interesting to me too, though, you know, so no worries. Assuming that you all have the patience for it, then we'll get there. Just give me a second. Let me figure this out. But I don't mind, because that's what I'm here for, are questions. All right, let's try this again and see if I can get this to rescan. Sorry, I hadn't moved I just moved everything over to this big giant hard drive, which is 5 terabytes. But I haven't rescanned everything, so let's try that one more time. Assuming this is gonna work. It's not gonna work. Okay, what the fuck? Desktop? Rescan? Close? What the actual fuck? Okay, now this works. What the fuck? Ah! I'm literally tapping this. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, I'm assuming that it's complete control in a third-party VST, but give me 1 sec. Yes. Yes. Scan it all. I don't care. There we go. All right. So without scanning, I typically use multipass. And the reason why is because I often try to use a cello in a way that I wouldn't particularly like use it before. So for the most part, whatever. Okay, fine. My ATH MT50X are getting old, and I'm thinking about upgrading. Can anyone recommend me a pair around 400 price range? Okay, so HD600s are in that price range, but if you're used to closed back, I would stick with closed back. I actually think that part of my tinnitus, or tinnitus, whatever you want to call it, is because of these. Because they're open back, you can hear everything around you, and if you don't have like an environment that's super quiet, which I don't, there's lots of stuff that's going on in the background, you're going to want to turn these up. And you're not going to realize how loud these actual headphones are. So I think that for a closed back, I'm not sure. I'd have to do some research on it. I actually really like the ATH MT40s. If you can get your hands on the MT40Xs, I actually like those a lot, and that's what I made my first EP on. I feel like those sound really good, and they're cheaper than the M50Xs. But if you can't, or you're looking for something that's more premium, then I think you can't really go wrong by anything from Sennheiser. And really, it doesn't really matter what headphones you get. You can just get something called SonarWorks, and it's $100, and you pretty much can. That'll pretty much flatten out all of the headphones that you want. But you don't always want super flat headphones, right? Wait, the HD 650s as well are also open back, but I think those are like $100 cheaper. So there's that as well. Maybe the $500 range. Yeah, I don't really know much about the Bear Dynamics, but it's hard. It's hard to recommend a set of cans because it's always gonna like depend on how it sounds to you, you know. Hopefully this worked. We'll see. Maybe. Come on, cello. Okay, this works. Great. Let's see if we can pull this up in Bitwig. One more time. Violin, violin, cello. Hello, cello. Beautiful. Okay, so I like to use multipass because a lot of times you can end up getting some really interesting shit out of it. If you're talking about modulation and stuff, then I typically rely on these. I'm just 100% transparency. I've been using, what's it called? I've been using Faceplant 2.0 because they actually have dedicated modulators to those, but I can't show you that because, well, I don't want to get in trouble. Audi's, yeah, I heard that Audi's are pretty like insane, but aren't those like super expensive? 650 is excellent studio phone, but 660S a bit on the steep side, but better dynamics. So yeah, once you get up to the 600s and the Sennheiser region, you pretty much can't go wrong. So some stuff that I like to use are pitch shifters, of course, because those are really fun. Maybe like set those to. That's super awesome. So like if you were to use something that's kind of like a randomizer and set that kind of at like a really slow rate, and then just set that to like 50% or so. Maybe a little bit faster. You can also start to get into some kind of distortion, which it doesn't have to be a lot, but maybe a little bit in that way. And then you can also do like maybe another pitch shifter like this. And right now I'm being somewhat subtle with that, but this would be like the most basic thing that you can kind of get yourself into to kind of create some interesting stuff. And then whenever you get into like crazy things, you really just kind of want to go insane on different stuff. So let's just kind of say like we've already got these two modulators or whatever. Well, we can start to mess with the rate a little bit. Maybe even do some kind of interesting filtering, kind of like this. Kind of mess with that in that range. And maybe not so much, just kind of keep that on the low mids. And then we can also mess with some reverb. Small size, big damp, close the reflections, kind of mess with something in that way, like this. And then one trick that I actually like to do is if I'm going to use a bandpass, then I actually do it within another snap heap or so, because you can actually mess with the mix in that way. So let's say like you want, you know, to use a bandpass in this way, you can set up another LFO for one and kind of just let that play along. But then what you can do is you can come into something like this and set this to be super slow and pull the mix down all the way, kind of like this, and then kind of mess with it there and set that to randomize. And then I'm really a big fan of randomizers because that's usually the most fun to use. So if we kind of have something like that, and then the mix is kind of being dialed in and out, then there's a lot of different stuff that you can do. Thanks for answering. We'll check them out and do a bit of research. Yeah, and that's really the best thing that you can do, right, is to make sure that you research it and kind of try to get a gauge for what those things are. But like I said, too, like if you get Sonarworks, then it won't really matter what you're using if you want like super flat headphones. Yeah, for sure. And with this stuff too, like it also depends on, you know, what it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to do something that makes it still sound like a cello, there's that. If you're wanting to create more of like a foghorn with this, then you actually want to pull the reverb over before the distortion. And what you would do instead is also play this into here. And then maybe actually add one more that comes in. So maybe something like this. Set the stereo into mono here, although if it's in more natural sound you probably want to keep the reverb in there, but I wouldn't play anything else with it because of the phase cancellation. And then once you have something like that, then really I kind of just would make another multipass thing or snap heap or whatever, and then just play with some of the racks that I've created. I have a bunch of these for sale on the Eternum 1 and 2 packs that you kind of just come in here and find some interesting stuff that will just break all your sounds in a crazy way. So something kind of like this. Are you modulating the cello in Contact? Can't see because blurry. I'm from Sweden. No, it's all just multipass and snap heap. Okay, maybe try a different one like freeze or see what that does. Okay, I'm gonna go back to multipass because I know that there's some stuff on this one that creates some. You can tell that it like doesn't sound like a cello anymore, but it's still from the same source of a cello. I thought to use multiband effects at all yet, just recording my cello and then... Oh, you have a cello? That's fucking cool. Yeah, you probably want to try guitar rig too then, because that would be really awesome. When I expand my palette, you definitely got me scheming. Yeah, so like if you have multipass or you have, you know, not trying to make a sale or anything, but I have a ton of presets that you can go through that just will break your sound in a lot of crazy ways. So it all depends on what you're going for too, though, right? So it's just a matter of like what is it that you're looking for and what is it that you want to change it into. Add a limiter to this. But yeah, it's kind of fun just to take, you know, like a natural instrument or something and really just, I'll pick up multipass and yeah, it's not a bad idea. Although, well, you can't really go wrong. Multipass right now in itself is really awesome. So you're really not losing out. But NA2 aren't working properly in Bitwig. I hope it'll get fixed. That's, yeah, I don't know. Unless if they came out with a recent update, I don't think that anything should be not working. But I mean, Bitwig isn't perfect. It rarely ever does anything like insane, but every once in a while I'll get a crash or I'll get something where the plugin's not working in the way it's supposed to be, or excuse me, or whatever. But I mean, yeah, the sky's the limit with the cello. There's just a touch of, well, the sky's the limit with multipass in general. Like if you want to break sound, it's really fun to just throw stuff on. I bet I have an idea that guitar rig would also sound really good on a cello. Especially if you do like some kind of pitch bend or something, that would be a great way to create some kind of interesting ambiances. So hold on, let me throw ROM at the end of this because I think this would sound really pleasing. But you take ROM, pull a low cut up, something like that, and then I've got this preset on here that I really like called, I think it's Dark Dust, but you get something kind of like that. And let me turn the limiter down. Sounds awesome. That's really cool. So Steel! Evan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you subbing, man. Now that you've got something like that, you can you know, throw this through something like multipass and see what that does. And if you were to set this to, you know, 100% mix, and you were to add more attack to this, assuming you can, I think you can. Expression. Smart, no. Virtuoso. Let's just change this to like legato or something. Set that to there. That sounds so nice. Yeah, and like if you have something kind of like, let me pull up a bass instead. So the same thing, but, or not same thing, but instead of the cello, we'll pull up a bass if I can find one. Cello, violin. Oh, maybe I don't have one. Maybe we can try the viola. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit crafty with this, and then I'm just going to use a regular pitch shifter instead, because it'll just be easier. But we'll pull this down by an octave. Actually, yeah, this will be easier, because now we can set a randomizer on this and slowly drift the pitch. So we'll make this into like hertz and set that to be super duper slow. And then just ever so slightly kind of drift that, and then I guess, there we go, we want that to be super slow, so. There we go. Let's duplicate that and mess with this now. Yo! I want to donate just to show my appreciation. Sadly, I just realized there's no super chat option. So I did take super chat off, but if you look on the screen, it says donate paypal.me/grayfox. So there is that, but don't worry. You know, if you don't want to, then don't worry. But that's kind of why I did that. The donations on YouTube are really bad because they take 30%, so that's why I turned super chats off. But you know, it's all good. If anything, I would maybe consider grabbing something off of a sample pack store, because that way you're actually going to get some value. Discovered your channel a couple days ago. I've been binging your content since. Thank you so much for all your awesome insight. Yo, Aiden, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you hanging out here and having some fun with me. You picked a good time because we're doing some cool soundscape stuff with cellos. But yeah, just by, you know, the pitch shifters and stuff from playing a single note, like, because I'm just playing F. But with all of this stuff kind of lined up, we're getting some really cool kind of like dark, you know, ambiances and stuff that will sound really good to me anyways. And then if you start messing with the grain size, actually, what we could do to make this even more exciting is to go like this. Sorry, hold on one sec. Is we're going to duplicate this, and then we're going to group this. We're going to turn this down, and we're going to set these on different settings So this one will be here at normal. This one can be at an octave. And we're going to kind of mess with some of these in an interesting way as well. So now that we have something like that, we'll grab some more randomizers. And this is going to create just like an interesting pad out of all of these. So if you go to Hertz and you make this really slow, and then we'll have 3 different ones for all of, for these 3, I guess, effects or whatever. And you kind of pull that one up, kind of like so. And then we don't want any of these to like, they're going to stack with the amplitude, so we don't want to be like full blown. But now that we have something kind of like this, I'm expecting this to have some interesting movement to it. So So, yeah, pitch shifters, man, that's like some of my favorite stuff to use. Like even on basses, it just sounds so freaking cool in the way that it kind of turns it into a granular effect, and the way that you can kind of do stuff with that in that way. Especially like when you actually, right now all of these are set at 100% mix, but when you turn the mix to something that's less than, and you're messing with the grain size, the pitch, and the mix all together, and then you have multiple ones that are going on, you end up getting some really cool stuff. So, yeah. And that's just one way. That's just one thing. But for me in particular, I like to do stuff that pitch drifts natural instruments, or just have some kind of crazy delay thing that's going on in order to change it into something completely different. But really, experimentation is the key, and that's really what I like to do, is to just experiment with making sounds in general. But yeah, does anybody have any questions regarding uh, what we just covered with either operators or with how to destroy a cello? Sounds like we have a banshee from The Witcher. Yeah, I really like to make like dark and monstrous sounds. That's really like what I do as far as making, as far as like sound design and enjoying sound design, like the darker the better for me. That's the thing about playing the cello, pitch drifting and inevitability. Thanks again, amigo. Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much for the membership. You have access to all the VODs now, so go and feel free to watch, some of the past broadcasts and stuff. This will be in there included as well. I'll probably leave this up for a day and then I'll switch that over. But yeah, I've kind of just been thinking about different content and stuff to do, but I definitely wanted to do some coverage over the operator things, because I find that there's a lot of potential within that. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have a whole lot else that I wanted to do for stream today. I didn't really want to like just sit down and chill and do nothing. So yeah, I think that's probably where I'll call it for this, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all of you guys coming in and hanging out. If you have any other questions, then feel free to hit me up on the Discord. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this one. I'll see you guys later.